Objective reality. So here's an example. When people have these near-death experiences, okay, or one where they're dying on a table, and they are commonly described, they leave their body, and they look back on themselves. Okay, that's a thing going. That's something. Okay,
right.
Let's investigate this. Okay, so the test for whether you really left your body or whether you were hallucinating it is get some writing that faces the ceiling up above your body, okay? And they've done this experiment. And if you're floating above your body, above that piece of paper, when you come back to life, you should be able to say what's written on that piece of paper. And that is yet to happen.
If you get above it.
Yeah, if you get above it, correct. That is yet to happen. That'd be really good.
Where would that piece of paper be suspended?
Yeah, no, you have to put it up on a shelf or something. Yeah, you'd be able to see, put it in a way that it would be clearly.
But then the person would have to die knowing that piece of paper was there and then be brought back?
Possibly. Yeah, I mean,
so you'd have to tell them, hey, I know you're going to die.
You're going to die.
We're gonna
if you come back, I have a piece of paper up here.
That
Go
seems
read
like
from it.
A pretty ridiculous experiment to try to
if
achieve.
You care. Wait. Pause. From ridiculous
So
experiment.
like, hey, I know this guy's about to die, but instead of concentrating on bringing him back to life, let's write down on a piece of paper and leave it on the shelf. But who the fuck is going to do that?
No, you know what they did?
What?
In 1895, after Wilhelm Röntgen discovers X-rays and they find out it penetrates your body and you can see bones inside your body, you know what they did?
What?
They set up X-ray machines at the bedside of dying people to see if they can see a soul leave the body.
And everybody just got cancer from the radiation.
They died from cancer? No, I thought that was an admirable attempt.
Yes, interesting.
To make a measurement.
Yeah, that's interesting. But,
yes.
But how would
never
you possibly know that someone is going to die and or have a near-death experiment?
What you do
near-death experience, rather, and then put a piece of paper on a shelf.
What you want to do, you'd have to be really organized about that.
Yeah.
And if you want to do this en masse,
you'd have to just like have shelves in every
bedroom, in every room,
of every ER.
Every ER, correct. Or yeah.
How often does that happen where people have above their body experiences?
It's very frequently reported.
Very frequently?
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying that the brain is capable of so much extraordinary thought within itself.
Of course.
That what I care about for the world is what is objectively true. And what's objectively true can be verified by multiple people. And if it's only true within your head, it's not useful, is all I'm saying.
How could it not be useful?
To
if it's
other
useful
people.
To you.
Oh,
and if useful to you, but hold on, if it's useful to you, and then that usefulness to you actually manifests itself in something that gets created because of this experience. Like Kerry Mullis created the PCR method because he had an acid trip, and during the acid trip came up with this idea.
So what we'd have to ask is, how frequent is that? So you get everybody who takes trips of any kind, be it mushrooms or acid, or and look at the body of their new thoughts that have come from them for them having, when they credit it, okay? And Carl Sagan was a big pothead, okay? And highly productive scientist. So so the question is, does it give you some insight which when you were not under the influence, gets you closer to an objective reality? That's an interesting question.
Carl Sagan actually believed it.
It is interesting, isn't it, to because we don't know what consciousness is, right? So it's often called a hard problem in science. We don't know. So it's a good question whether you can build, let's say you want to build a self-replicating machine, which is what you're talking about, and something that can go and maybe go to the moon or Mars and replicate itself and then carry on, which is a living thing, I suppose.
Yes.
Does it have to have a sufficient level of intelligence that it actually is conscious? And all these things that we talked about, this word meaning that we used earlier, that we all understand but can't define, is that a emergent property that has to emerge if you've got something that's intelligent enough to replicate itself and live and, as you said, be the... I don't know the answer, but it's worth considering that this thing, this emotion, meaning, love and fear and all those things, are just the things that happen when you are intelligent.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that. The caveat is always that we don't know about this.
Yeah.
It's just not understood.
Well, I think there's something weird happening.
It's physical, though. I'm damn sure it's physical. I'm damn sure that there's nothing going on in my head other than what is allowed by the laws of nature as we understand them.
So eliminating woo, you mean? The idea of a soul being some sort of a divine thing that's inside the housing of the body.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we can rule that out, actually. I've argued in the past.
How do you rule it out?
I've argued we can rule that out in the following manner. So here's my arm, right? So it's made of electrons and protons and neutrons. And if I have a soul in there, something that we don't understand, but it's a different kind of energy or whatever it is that we don't have in physics at the moment, it interacts with matter because I'm moving my hand around. So whatever it is, it's something that interacts very strongly with matter. But if you look at the history of particle physics in particular, which is the study of matter, we spent decades making high precision measurements of how matter behaves and interacts. And we look, for example, for a fifth force of nature. So we know 4 forces, the gravity, the 2 nuclear forces, called the weak and strong nuclear forces, and electromagnetism. And that's what we know exist. And we look for another one with ultra high precision, and we don't see any evidence of it. So I would claim that we know how matter interacts at these energies, so room temperature now, these energies, we know how matter interacts very precisely. And so if you want to suggest there's something else that interacts with matter strongly, then I would say that it's ruled out. I would go as far as say it is ruled out by experiment, or at least it is extremely subtle, and you would have to jump through a lot of hoops to come up with a theory of some stuff that we wouldn't have seen when we've observed how matter interacts, that is present in our bodies. And presumably if you believe in the soul, you want it to exist outside. When you die, you still want the thing to be there, and you might believe in ghosts and things like that. I mean, look at a ghost. I mean, it is something that carries the imprint of you, presumably. It looks like you, right? So that means that it interacts strongly with the matter that is you, because it carries a pattern. If it carries a pattern, it carries information. If it carries information, there has to be an energy source that allows that information to persist and the pattern to persist and so on. So again, you end up with a theory that is postulating something. It interacts with light, because if you think a ghost is the soul, then it's something that people see sometimes. So that means it interacts with light. But we know how light interacts, and we've ruled out anything but the most subtle further interaction that we haven't seen.
The woo-woo version is that the brain itself and the body, the physical, the spiritual self, you are merely an antenna that's tuning into the great consciousness of the universe.
But why? But then you have to answer what we know what we are made of.
Yeah.
So we know how those particles behave and interact.
Right.
So why do the particles not in any way interact with that stuff? Because we interact. We don't. If that's true, we don't only just interact with it. We interact extremely strongly with it. We're interacting with it now.
Yeah.
Every movement I make is an interaction between that.
Right.
And
Every
the matter
thought you
in my
have.
body. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, everything. If I move my fingers around, everything that I'm doing
Right.
is an interaction between that stuff and me. So it's a very strong interaction with matter, but we don't see it in all our precision measurements. Well, the answer for that, the answer is because it's not there.
The answer is Jesus, and you can't measure God.
That may be an answer, but the point is, as we talked about earlier with absolute space,
Yes.
if you can't measure it,
Yeah.
it's not there.
Right. But for whatever reason, for people, there is some incredible motivation to find a divine something or another. There's something greater than this physical being. There's something. What do you think that is? Like, what is that compulsion?
We've already sort of talked a bit about it. I think it goes to the heart of this question of what it means to be human. So I would say that being human, the answer, right, I don't have the answer to the meaning of it all, but an answer would be we are small, finite beings, right, which are just clusters of atoms, as we said before, that are very rare, but we understand roughly how they came to be. And we have a limited amount of time, not actually unfortunately, but because of the laws of nature. The laws of nature forbid us to be immortal. Immortality is ruled out by the laws of physics. But also, actually, what's interesting about, if you look at the basic physics of the universe, going from the Big Bang to where we are today, then the physics is driven by the fact that the universe began in an extremely ordered state. So it was a very highly ordered system. And it is tending towards a more disordered system at the moment. And that's called the second law of thermodynamics. And it's that basic common sense thing that things go to shit, right? Basically, it's the second law of thermodynamics. What we strongly suspect, and I would say no, is that in that process of going from order to disorder, complexity emerges naturally for a brief period of time. So it's a natural part of the evolution of the universe that you get a period in time when there's complexity in the universe. So stars and planets and galaxies and life and civilizations. But they exist because the universe is decaying, not in spite of the fact the universe is decaying. So our existence in that sort of picture is necessarily finite and necessarily time limited. And it is a remarkable thing that complexity has got so far that there are things in the universe that can think and feel and explore it. And I think that is the answer. If you want an answer to the meaning of it all, it's that you are part of the universe. Because of the way the laws of nature work, you are allowed to exist, but you're allowed to exist for a small amount of time in a possibly infinite universe.
One of the biggest mind-blowing moments, I think, of my limited comprehension of what it means to be a living being was when I found out that carbon and all the stuff that makes us has to come out of a dying star. Yeah. We see these things in the sky. We see the sun in the sky. It's this all-powerful ball of fire. Yeah. And that is where the building blocks for a person come from.
I know. And they will be from the carbon atoms in our body. That you're right, they all got made in stars because there's none of it at the Big Bang. There's only hydrogen and helium, tiny bit of lithium to be precise, but nothing else. And so it was all made in stars. And it's probably from different stars. You know, the atoms in your body, they're not all from one star that cooked it and then died. There'll be a mixture of stuff from many stars in your body now. And I agree with you. What more do you want? You know, when I see people who go, I want more than that. I want more. You know, there must be more to it. What do you mean? The ingredients in our bodies were assembled in the hearts of long dead stars over billions of years, and have assembled themselves spontaneously into temporary structures that can think and feel and explore. And then those structures will decay away again at some point, and in the very far future, there'll be no structures left. So there we are. We exist in this little window when we can observe this magnificent universe. Why do you want any more? The real treasure, I think, is in that journey of trying to face the incomprehensible.
Yes.
It's in that realization that it's almost impossible to believe that we exist. Right?
Yes, right.
But that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I think you miss out. I think if you decide to simplify it because you don't want to face that, you don't want to face the infinity that's out there in front of us, and you don't want to face those stories, as you said, that you look at your finger and its ingredients was cooked in multiple stars over billions of years. That's to me a joyous and powerful thing to think about.
Yes.